One of, if not my all-time favourite Walking Dead character, is Abraham Ford. He joined the show in season 4 episode 10 and was immediately seamlessly funny and lovable. Once he lost his family, he spared himself purely on having purpose in Eugene's lie about him being a scientist and that he could save the world if he brought him to Washington. Once it was revealed to be a lie, his story was all about finding another reason to live, and when he did, he died for it. It's one of those story arcs that I think on paper you could say ended perfectly, but painfully sad, and in the end, the show had gone to suffer so much from losing such colourful and charismatic characters. You could feel the absence of losing Abraham and Glenn, and while that was the intention at first,
it feels like everything
the show would go on to lose more and more of itself, and you look back at scenes like this, where they sparingly got rid of such presences on the show, and ended up with something much worse. 701 could have still been so great, with just one person getting beat by Lucille. You look back at that table at the end of the main show, and it couldn't really be an ending or celebration of what they've all been through, because most of them hadn't been through it. And as much as I hate to say Abraham's big sacrifice where he kneeled up to Negan, showing him that he was the strongest and embraced being chosen, was overshadowed and overwhelmed by Glenn's fate, which kind of undermines the big act of sacrifice the show could have really done with his vibrance later. I think there was so much more they could have done with him, and now that I've seen the rest of the main show, it's time we finally answer the question of what if Abraham survived. Of course, make sure you press the like button and subscribe if you're new.
Simply cannot decide.
At the lineup, Negan chooses Glenn because he interrupted before.
You can breathe. You can blink. You can cry. Hell, you're all gonna be doing that. Oh, look at that! Taking it like a champ!
I'll find you.
Negan doesn't kill Abraham because he sees that he's strong. He spares him because of it, because he thinks he can use him. After Negan kills Glenn, he notices that Abraham is cradling Maggie, comforting her.
Sweetheart, were you together? That sucks.
He shouts and orders Dwight and some saviors to separate them, but Maggie removes Abraham's hands herself. Daryl isn't taken because he doesn't lash out. In fact, Abraham was the closest to doing anything, but because Maggie removed his hands by herself, nothing happened. No one interrupted, so no one is taken.
You thought you were all gonna grow old together, sitting around the table at Sunday dinner in the happily ever after. No, doesn't work like that, Rick.
Abraham and Sasha stay with Maggie at Hilltop, while the rest go back to Alexandria. Maggie, Sasha and Jesus are sitting by Glenn's grave. Abraham walks over and hands Maggie Herschel's watch, says it was in Glenn's pocket. Gregory storms out saying they need to leave.
Maggie is pregnant.
Well, that's her mistake.
Abraham tackles him to the ground and starts choking him. He gets lost in the moment again, like when he was last at Hilltop. Maggie, Sasha and Jesus have to pull him away as Sasha walks Abraham to his room. The morning after, Sasha wakes up to find Abraham getting ready to leave. It's almost an exact mirror of when he broke up with Rosita, apart from now it's positive. He's going back to help with supplies to give to the saviors. He says Sasha should stay here with Maggie, and they're still on good terms, but he's now been at Hilltop for a couple of days and wants to go and help out back home. Abraham arrives shortly after season 7 episode 4 Service, when Negan had just arrived unexpectedly, and him and the saviors torment the residents. He's almost in shock at the state of the place, and makes a joke about him now not having a bed.
Let me put this to all of you as clearly as I can. I'm not in charge anymore. Negan is.
Rosita lets Abraham in on her plan with Eugene to make a bullet. While he's somewhat impressed at her immediate plans to get rid of Negan, he tries to discourage her, says she's being stupid. But, as fate would have it, thanks to Carl infiltrating the sanctuary, Negan arrives again.
Where's Rick?
For most of this episode, Abraham does nothing but stare at Negan from across the street, spectate him, as Spencer weasels his way into conversation. As he's staring, he asks Rosita, sitting beside him, if she knew about this, because Spencer is very clearly just sitting there denouncing Rick.
Rick Grimes has a history of not working well with others.
You know what I'm thinking? Because I have a guess. It's because you got no guts. Anyone want to finish the game?
There were many times in the show that Abraham was shown to lash out, be impulsive, get angry. This is what I think would have been explored if they kept him on. Him getting to a point where he doesn't become or remain that person that his family saw him as before they died. I mean, what better test of restraint than having this guy walk into your home with all these awful people, torment, antagonize, and mock you, especially after what he did. Abraham found something to live for. Now it's about protecting it. That includes keeping his temper to avoid retaliation and keep everyone safe. Unluckily for him, Rosita tries to kill Negan. After Rosita is tackled and cut, the punishment is still a rat killing Olivia. He asks who made the bullet, and Abraham is ready to take the fall. Whatever Negan's got planned, Abraham is ready to take it. He doesn't believe it was Abraham, but he announces that he's going to take Abraham to the sanctuary until...
No, it wasn't. It was me.
So Eugene speaks up for Abraham. Eugene is taken.
No, please, just take me! No!
After this, the group rejuvenates at Hilltop. Abraham joins the group in visiting the kingdom, so Abraham has now made it to see Shiva and Jerry, who at this point in the show was still funny.
Pleases me to see you, old friend.
It pleases him indeed.
Jerry.
It's stuff like this, having a room full of characters and such great personalities, that would have made The Walking Dead so worth the watch. We would have got this if they just didn't mind having characters pushed to the side, or in the background for a bit. Why was Abraham the character they thought had no more story? After getting the explosives, they head back to Alexandria. Rosita hears from Jesus that Sasha is planning to go to the sanctuary. Even though in this timeline, Sasha didn't lose Abraham, she still lost so much up until this point, and staying with Maggie, she's angry, she still wants revenge. He finds this out all too late. Rosita comes back and unenthusiastically reveals to Abraham that Sasha broke into the sanctuary and told her to leave. Abraham gets upset, and a part of him does see this as maybe Rosita wanted this. Negan is on the way. The explosives have been activated. They find out that Eugene is at the front of this convoy of saviors.
Every contingency is already met.
What?
All points are covered. Hello, you may thrive or you may die. I sincerely wish for the former, for everyone's sake.
Abraham shouts for Eugene to get down and walk back in, but right in front of him, he's seeing Eugene seemingly undo all that progress he made. Abraham makes a comment to himself that Eugene's not a survivor, he's a leech. Would sound better if he said it, calling back to season 6 episode 15, where he says this.
I've changed, adapted. I'm a survivor.
Where he would bite Dwight and prove himself, because he does see this at the time as Eugene undoing it.
Where's Negan?
I'm Negan.
After it's revealed that Jadis and the scavengers betrayed Rick, Negan walks out. After recent events, Negan says he now wants all of their supplies, and a person of Rick's choosing for Lucille. And when he says this, he looks at Abraham.
I want a person of your own choosing for Lucille.
It's almost like it happened in another universe, where Sasha, he says, similarly to how he would ask,
Who's Deanna?
and
Who's Negan?
Negan signals Dwight and Simon to uncover a big crate next to them. It's a coffin.
Gosh, you're not gonna believe this crap.
Abraham rampages through Alexandria, taking out every scavenger and savior he can see. Season 7 ends with a slightly different Abraham, who has lost yet another thing that he lived for. Similar to when he lost his family, even though he was helping out, protecting them, he feels he lost Sasha because he wasn't there. Almost feels like he scared her away a bit with his lashing out at Gregory, just like with his wife. He's now made his reason to live, fighting the saviors. I think Sasha dying is actually more impactful with Abraham still alive. With them both being killed off the same season, it did feel like a bit of a waste. So Abraham would go on to see this as her death is what started the war. It had to happen. In the season 8 premiere, Abraham joins Morgan on taking out another savior outpost. In my what if videos, I end up finding stuff that is extremely uncanny. That makes me feel like maybe this was always meant to happen in the show. I've written Abraham to be with Morgan because that's what I think it'd be. Two characters now dealing with loss and feeling the need to kill the saviors. And right next to Morgan in this scene is a character called Freddy. The first time we ever saw this Freddy character is when Abraham nearly killed him, after going on for a while without losing it. In this scene, he got lost in the moment again. He froze. And shortly after, when they're taking Freddy back to Hilltop with them in the RV, he said this.
You okay, Freddy?
For a second back there, just when I thought he was gonna saw my wife, she died before all this. Just when I thought it was over, there she was, clear as day.
He saw visions of his wife when Abraham nearly killed him. In this timeline, Abraham went on to lose Sasha. So this foreshadowed it. And if that wasn't crazy enough, the other character there, Andy, was the guy that Abraham got into a scuffle with when he first got to Hilltop. This all happened in the same episode, such big things for Abraham, and they're here. Instead of it just being Morgan, Freddy, and this Andy character, it's Abraham too, and you get Abraham and Morgan as the more experienced, more gun-ho ones, literally in there purely to kill, while the other two are scared. In the show, they were all gunned down, and the other two died, while Morgan survived because of Benjamin's armour. But I don't think they should have stood there staring at the saviors that ran up in the first place. With Morgan and Abraham alive, they defeat the saviors and all survive. Andy and Freddy lag behind while Morgan and Abraham stroll through the corridor, brutally taking out every savior that comes their way. They act disturbed as they see the pure anger on their faces when they carelessly take them. We saw this back in season 5. Abraham has always had this rage. Abraham and Morgan stumble out of the outpost. Jared recognizes Morgan, so Morgan walks up and puts his gun on him. Jesus stops him, but Abraham says, "Leave it. We're here to kill them." He looks around at all the spared saviors and he says, "What is this?" Tara agrees. I do like that she was there when Abraham first appeared, so them both having huge reasons to want the saviors dead is really cool. After arriving at Hilltop, Abraham stands guard of the saviors, says he's just waiting for Maggie's word. When Maggie eventually decides to spare them, she reveals they built a prison for them to enclose them in until it's over. Maggie orders for Gregory to be put in with them. Abraham grabs him and puts him in. Later, back inside, Aaron is talking to Enid, Abraham and Maggie about Eric, who he just lost.
Does it get easier?
No. But it helps to do something about it.
Maggie, Jesus, Abraham, and Hilltop member Neil
Damn straight.
lead a convoy of Hilltop members to the sanctuary in hopes the plan worked and they can get them to surrender, until they come across a tree in the road. Abraham immediately knows it's the saviors. In the show, Maggie says it's them, but I think it would be nice for it to be recognised by someone who was actually vertical when that happened. Maggie was laying down, she would never have seen this tree method. The saviors roll out a beaten Jerry and Simon walks out.
Hello, hello, hello!
Meanwhile, Negan arrives at Alexandria again. Unfortunately, this is season 8, episode 8. Carl has already been bitten and is about to die. Abraham being alive doesn't change that. He says to Maggie that Hilltop has been selected to keep producing. Simon says if they don't comply, he'll have Jerry killed, and he'll drag Maggie out of the car and put her in this coffin. He mentions Sasha.
In which you will not suffocate to death like your friend, Sasha.
Abraham loses it, but just when he's about to make a move, Simon shoots one of the Hilltop residents in the car.
Nah, Gary, I got this.
Neil. They head back to Hilltop. The people that escaped Alexandria also join them at Hilltop. Negan devises his plan of using weapons covered in walker insides to infect the residents of Hilltop when they attack, even though Rick would later crash into Negan, steering him away, leading to Simon ordering to just kill them. Tobin and others are still slashed. Another uncanny moment, in season 5, Sasha accidentally slashed Abraham's arm that she had taken out walkers with. Abraham obviously didn't turn. You can rationalise this till the cows come home. There wasn't enough guts on it, there wasn't yet. With Abraham still alive, he can mention this. When some of them start calling out that their weapons were already used. Abraham calls BS. He gets hopeful because he says it happened to him before and nothing happened, but later that night Tobin and other residents still turn and kill people. Abraham feels guilty and loses even more hope. Bruce is still alive but feels the fever. Abraham puts him down by request.
You're gonna have to do it.
Which is cool because he was one of the Alexandrians on the construction site in season 5 that were with Abraham when he saved Francine. Abraham ran to save her while the others just watched. So it's quite cool that here he stood up and died doing it. This same night, in the chaos, most of the saviors that were being held escaped. So Morgan and Abraham, just like we saw in episode 2, go out hunting for the saviors. Rick finds out from Alden that they've gone to a nearby bar.
Where'd they go?
There's no dive bar 3 miles off Edge Hill Parkway.
Luckily he was really informative.
It's between here and there, but the chances they'd actually...
Rick goes looking for them and comes across a crazed Morgan. As they're talking, Abraham comes out from behind a tree and Rick smiles. Because all 3 of them together, the saviors don't stand a chance. They are all captured by the saviors they were looking for.
What the hell is going on?
I'm giving you my word.
And it all ends with them slaughtering them all, each with their own reasons to want to do it.
I lied.
Abraham is back to where he was, and this is the worst we ever see these characters. They return to Hilltop, and a day after, Rosita, Abraham, and Daryl go to retrieve Eugene from the sanctuary.
Eugene, let's go. Eugene, move it. I don't want to. Now.
While escorting Eugene back to Alexandria, Abraham is quiet, so genuinely disappointed in him, even though we obviously know Eugene was doing it to stay alive and to set up the bullets to beat Negan. They don't know that, and as far as they see it, he's had many opportunities to escape. While Daryl and Abraham are taking out walkers, Eugene does that weird shite where he throws up on Rosita to get away. It's clumsy, but I think that's what they would still do.
If you see him, blow that pig's head off.
When it comes to the season 8 finale, Eugene's plan works. Rosita saves Eugene.
I didn't think you could do it. I was wrong.
Rick defeats Negan and spares him. Abraham looks on like every other character did, listening to Rick's speech and knowing he's right.
We are live. That's death. And it's coming for us. Unless we stand together.
The new world begins. All this is just what was.
There's got to be something after.
Abraham joins the others in restocking the sanctuary. He's now living for that new world Rick spoke of. Another uncanny moment. Abraham was the one that wrote, "The new world's gonna need Rick Grimes on the map," back in season 5. In this timeline, Abraham is officially in that new world. So unfortunately, Abraham doesn't kill Negan. His story is one of restraint and mercy, not revenge. Like I think other characters' stories would have been. After season 8, a year passes and we see them all trying to work with the saviors and unite the communities. I really like the idea of Abraham living at and helping lead the sanctuary with Rosita, Daryl, Jerry, and Eugene, and so he also helps with the construction of the bridge.
I checked out the supplies. It's a pretty good haul. You should let everybody know.
I ain't getting up on a stage, giving a damn speech like him. It's bad timing. We just lost someone out there.
You can tell Abraham is leaning more into being doubtful of working with the saviors, but remarkably he doesn't tear them apart. It's cool to see. Even though Abraham is so close to Maggie, I don't think he would join them on trying to deceive Rick and going out of his way to make sure Negan dies. I don't think he wants Negan to live either, but he's not going to go to that extent to be so destructive. Rick blows up the bridge the same way he did in the show. Abraham is among the characters that try to help, which is amazing in itself. 6 years pass. Abraham resides at Hilltop to help Tara out with leading it. Of course, I want him to stay there for Sasha and actually for Maggie. At this point, she has also left off screen. As Tara and partially Jesus are leading Hilltop, Abraham deals with and oversees the more physical side of work, like the carpentry and forging with Alden and Earl. Daryl, Carol, and now older Henry come and visit Hilltop, as Aaron reveals that Eugene and Rosita were outnumbered by a herd outside the walls. Rosita is back, but Eugene is still missing. Abraham immediately wants to help. Aaron, Jesus, Abraham, and Daryl both leave to go and find him. Abraham smiles when he sees Eugene is alive. When Eugene is frantically explaining that he heard the walkers whispering, Abraham is the first to take it seriously. He knows more than anyone that there's truth to what he's saying.
This wasn't a normal herd.
What do you mean?
When they passed us by,
We could hear them. They were whispering to each other.
I love that Abraham never really stopped being protective of Eugene. Even after the lie, the mixing in with the saviors, he continues to be protective, and you'll see it here.
Man just got dicked.
When they're dead-ended in a graveyard while escorting Eugene, they have to fend off the walkers before they can escape. Fortunately, Michonne, Yumiko and Magna arrive to help get the gate open. Jesus tells Aaron and Abraham to help too, as he clears out the oncoming walkers. But unfortunately, the first Whisperer does kill him. Daryl calls Abraham and Michonne over and reveals the stitching of the masks. The Whisperer's arc officially begins, and the fact that Abraham is here makes me very happy.
We are neck deep up shit creek with our mouths wide open.
I wish I'd met him before. Sounds like he was a goer.
He was. Shouldn't have been out here. It's my fault if I had. Jesus made his own decisions. Maybe what happened was bound to happen.
After arriving back at Hilltop, they have Jesus' funeral.
Who are you?
Daryl and Abraham interrogate Lydia, where we eventually hear her backstory, and after that, Alpha arrives at the gates of Hilltop.
I'm Alpha. And we only want one thing from you. My daughter.
After she shows they've got Luke and Alden, Daryl goes to hand Lydia back over. Later that night, Henry leaves to go and find her, and he does, and gets captured. So Daryl and then Connie infiltrate their camp to get him and Lydia back. They all agree to have the trade fair for the kingdom, and it commences. Abraham is there when they sign the Coalition Charter, which was basically Rick's Season 8 speech in written form, where the leader of each community sign it as one universal agreement. It's really cool that he's there when Tara signs it. There is this sense that Abraham's quite proud of Tara, which I think is quite cool, when I think her character was up in the air a bit when they first met each other. At first, at the trade fair, Abraham is with Tara, but then later goes to speak with Rosita and Eugene. As he's readjusting his radio, Eugene clumsily reveals that Rosita is pregnant, and Abraham congratulates her on it, and he's also somewhat proud that she moved on and is happy. It's a full circle moment. I don't normally care about romance in shows. I don't dislike it, I just don't care. That's why I wasn't as keen that, you know, the big CRM Rick project was turned into just a love story. I couldn't care less which character's doing who and who, but I do like full circle moments, and with Abraham going to Sasha being such a big thing in his story and hers, it's good that now he's seeing her having a baby. In The Walking Dead especially, they make that a big deal.
A couple of fine gentlemen, including myself, are hosting an inter-community RPG campaign later if you're interested.
Don't push it.
Roger that.
Abraham doesn't plan to stick around for the fair. Those who reside at Hilltop are still quite worried about all that's been going on, because if Alpha is to retaliate for attacking their camp and taking Lydia, they think Hilltop will be hit first. Tara says she should stay at the fair because people will worry if they all leave at once. So Abraham leaves with Carol, Daryl, Michonne, Magna and Yumiko. They come across the two highwaymen and that Xavier DJ as they're investigating a Hilltop couple's wagon who have gone missing. The others separate. We're gonna have Abraham there instead of Yumiko. There really wasn't much point to her being there. They follow a trail that leads them to a dead end. Abraham makes a funny comment about how he's getting deja vu, referencing the season 6 finale. As walkers attack, the Whisperer appears wearing the face of Hilltop resident Miles. Again, makes a lot of sense for Abraham to be here and to be the one recognizing this guy because he actually lived at Hilltop for a while, so he says, that's Miles. The group is outnumbered. After Alpha takes Daryl up on that cliff, they leave and find Sadiq tied to a tree at the bottom of a hill. Then they see what's at the top of it.
If you happen to see her, could you tell her I need to speak with her?
Seeing Abraham react to seeing Tara up there is actually really sad. He didn't just know her 10 minutes like Yumiko did. The Whisperers have taken out these people's friends. Each and every one of them are personally affected by what they see. As strong as I think he is, I do actually think he would be pretty knocked by seeing this. Seeing Abraham hear Sadiq's story of how he saw them all fight makes it a lot sadder. The characters in that barn were usually given such a soppy Walking Dead get out of jail free card, but they were disturbingly taken out. The good news is, Abraham is now the leader of Hilltop. He's now leading not just for Tara, but Maggie and Sasha. When the snowstorm hits, the people of the kingdom are forced to leave and join the Hilltop. I don't think Abraham would appear in this episode much, as he's already at Hilltop, expecting them. After the storm passes, Abraham helps with the training and stopping the fire that started in the forest after the satellite crashes. Alexandria then have to start dealing with constant waves of walkers, and they think they're being sent by the Whisperers. We see Abraham with Gabriel, Aaron, Rosita and Eugene fending off the walkers at night. The next day, they spot a Whisperer approaching, Gamma.
The north border. Now.
Abraham moodily snaps back. Why?
Her.
She ends this meeting by saying to meet Alpha at the north border tonight. Michonne, Daryl, Carol and Abraham are devising a plan to meet her. He asks, are we really going in there unarmed? Daryl says,
We got no choice.
They go there and drop their weapons. Abraham staring at the pike that Tara was put on as they wait. Abraham looks on in disgust as they arrive, and it's amazing. Alpha says that instead of killing them, she wants land.
Creek that winds into the valley. That is your new southern border. We will mark the new border to the north.
Cut off our hunting grounds. We don't have to stand here and listen to this.
Carol! To this... What?
Shut up.
To this bullshit.
Abraham joins in restraining her.
This is my land now. You better run.
Come on, let's go. Let's go.
Gamma arrives again, but this time to help them. She informs them where the cave with the herd in it is on the map. Gabriel decides all but Laura, Rosita and Abraham are gonna head out to the herd. This turns out to be a trick to have less people back at Alexandria so Beta could go in and get Gamma back. But with Abraham home, something perfect happens. Beta infiltrates Alexandria through the tunnel that Dante dug. Rosita fends off Beta as much as she can, but almost dies until... Abraham calls out behind him, Abraham versus Beta. How amazing and funny would that be? And it's a full circle moment. Abraham defending his family. His family wasn't scared of him, they're proud. Beta has to flee. After Alpha and Daryl fight and Lydia spares Alpha, she goes after Hilltop. Being the leader of Hilltop, he must lead them into battle. Abraham is impressed with Eugene's electric wire plan.
Another dick. Bitch nuts.
Hilltop is defeated and they all have to flee. It's revealed that Carol had set Negan free to kill Alpha and now Beta is on the way. They all go to the tower, which is just a hospital called the Tower, and wait for Beta to arrive with the herd. After all being held up in the tower for hours, Negan tries to talk to Abraham. He tries to say how much he liked Sasha, because in years they've not spoken.
I just want to say that I liked her. I liked a lot of things about her, and I wish to God I didn't have to do what I did. But if there is something that you want to say to me, then you should say it.
But Abraham doesn't have much to say, not yet.
The evacuation started, but it's going to take time getting everybody down.
We'll give it to him.
They lead the herd into the ocean, the Whisperer's arc is over, and Maggie comes back. I think that was a mostly negative thing in the show, but with Abraham there it means so much more. Of course, she makes a big song and dance about Negan. Abraham sees how distressed Maggie is by Negan being at Alexandria, so Abraham throws Negan a backpack of his stuff, takes him on a walk and says he has to leave, even though Negan's disappointed. As Abraham is walking away, he says, Red? Thank you. Abraham smiles but says, I didn't do it for you. But after his Here's Negan episode, he comes back anyway, as Abraham frowns. I think the only way Negan would have stayed gone and been exiled like in the comics, and like I think he probably should have been for the interest of the character, is if Rick and or Glenn were still in the show. Of course, Eugene and his group have gone to meet this Stephanie, and they have initiated the Commonwealth storyline. Along with this comes the Reaper storyline, but I usually skim past it because I don't think it's important. It really feels like something that AMC made the writers do to fluff out a much longer season. I think it was insultingly generic and an insult to the greatness and thoughtfulness that was in The Walking Dead. It really was just generic soldiers had a problem with Maggie until they killed them all, and they created this Leah character so Daryl would have a personal twist in the Reaper arc, but he didn't even care when he killed her, so it was just insulting. This goes without saying, but the Reaper arc in the show would be infinitely better for having Abraham in it.
Just thinking about choices. Do they even matter anymore?
Depends on who's making the choice. Doubt's important, but it doesn't make you wrong.
Tell me to have faith.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah. Alden?
But this was all to even further show Alexandria on its last legs, and they would need the Commonwealth's help for supplies, even though the Whisperers would have done that. We are now in the final part of the main show with the Commonwealth arc.
Good gracious Ignatius.
I think Abraham would be with Daryl and Rosita, getting tested by Mercer and becoming a soldier.
Oh, honey, look at you. You're a damn mess. Damn it.
Which would make you hate Sebastian even more when he starts getting in Abraham's face.
Why did you do that? Timmy down there almost ate your face, dumbass.
Now that Maggie's back, I don't want Abraham to be at Hilltop as much. Abraham had his time leading it. I don't want him to be one of those NPCs that follow Maggie around. I think when she comes back, Abraham would say to her, "You're the leader again, kept it warm for you." He could have even made a joke like, not literally warm, because it all burnt. And then Abraham goes back to joining Eugene and Rosita and dwelling at the Commonwealth. And that's just what the show did. They would have all these much better characters say to Maggie, "Yeah, you go and talk to Gregory. Yeah, we're all going to be following you after." I'm just sitting there watching it like, wait a minute. Can I not just have those characters be the leader? Can they not be the ones that stay? Why are we passing the torch down to people that are worse?
Deanna was right about you.
It's the one thing she was wrong about.
After this, I'm following you.
Without context, that was creepy. Lance takes control over all of the communities. Abraham helps take him down. Seeing Abraham and Negan work together is really cool to think about. Half of them are taken to Outpost 22 and forced to work.
Morning and welcome. Today is the first day of a new beginning. You, and you.
Diana Marta, it's too easy. You living, making something positive out of your days, now that. Gotta keep me from giving in to anger.
Once they defeat the Warden and get out, it's about taking down Pamela.
Shoot to kill. Watch your 6. And Godspeed, 301.
Thanks, 22. I'll see you soon.
Milton has underestimated us since day one. We are gonna get our kids, take back our home, and make it right.
Tomorrow we go to the end of the line.
And Pamela's never gonna see it coming.
After walkers get into the walls, they clear them out by playing loud music and blowing up Pamela's estate, saving the Commonwealth. Abraham made it. But what makes this finale so bittersweet is Rosita reveals she is bitten, and this again was the actress wanting to leave. She wanted closure on that Rosita chapter of her life. So even though Abraham is here in this timeline, I think she would still die, but I think it means even more with him here. A big thing I liked in this final episode, after Rosita revealed she was bitten, Eugene and Gabriel and everyone had to hold it together and not make her final moments all sad. So Rosita and Abraham seeing Eugene hold it together is really cool. When the original ending of their story in the main show I think was a bit backhanded, like, yeah, you redeemed yourself, now watch me get my head done in, then go and be a saviour for a season and a half. And I think this is just a really great way for their story on the main show to have ended. Abraham and Eugene have to hold it together as he makes a speech at the end reminiscent of the one he made back in season 5. They all say their goodbyes to her and then a 1-year time jump takes place. As Mercer is promoted to deputy governor, Abraham becomes the general of the Commonwealth Army. He was a sergeant before, so it's perfect. Daryl leaves and the spin-offs begin. So this is what I think would happen if Abraham survived in The Walking Dead, but we'll never know for sure. An amazing character, effortlessly funny. The show could have really done with him sticking around because just his mere presence makes every stale, dingy part of it so much better. But what do you think? Do you agree with this timeline I've created? Do you prefer this or just what ended up happening in the main show? What other characters do you want me to do what ifs on? Let me know what you think down below. More coming. Press the like button on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.
Laying your ass on the line for someone else, tearing it to shreds for him. You said it before. That is living.
You're an idiot.
I never said otherwise.